everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today, we're going to be looking at something called nudge theory. And
Things interesting.
it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
It's this idea of using psychology to kind of influence behavior in like subtle ways, like a gentle push
Right.
to help people make quote unquote better choices without actually forcing them to do anything.
That's cool. So how does it work?
Well, I'm glad you asked. To help us unpack all of this,
Okay.
we found this really great French blog post
Cool.
all about nudge theory and how it's being used in
great.
everything,
Right.
from marketing to communication,
Oh, wow.
even politics.
Interesting. So like real world application.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I'm always fascinated by how psychology can be used to influence behavior in practical ways.
Yeah,
Like you see it everywhere, but you don't always realize it.
exactly.
So before we get into the specifics, can
Yeah.
you give us a quick rundown of what exactly nudge theory is?
Of course. So nudge theory, it was developed by this economist,
Okay.
Richard Thaler,
Mm-hmm.
who actually won a Nobel Prize for his work.
Wow. So it's a pretty big deal then.
Oh, yeah, it's a big deal. And at its core,
Uh-huh.
nudge theory is about understanding these things called cognitive biases.
Cognitive biases.
Yeah, which are basically these mental shortcuts our brains take to simplify decision-making.
Oh, okay. Like those little tricks our minds play on us.
Exactly. And by understanding these biases, nudge theory suggests that we can design environments that gently guide people towards making choices that are
Yeah.
beneficial for themselves or for society as a whole,
Interesting.
without actually restricting their freedom of choice.
So it's not about forcing anyone to do anything.
No, not at all. It's more about making certain choices
Okay.
more appealing or easier to make,
Got it.
I
I think I'm starting to get it.
It's kind of like if you're in a cafeteria
Okay.
and you want to encourage people to eat healthier
Mm-hmm.
instead of banning all the junk food. You could just place the fruits and vegetables at the front of the line, Make them the most obvious and easiest choice.
I see.
So people are more likely to grab those first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's all about subtly influencing choice architecture.
There's architecture.
Yeah, the way choices are presented and framed to us
Wow. Never thought of it that way.
to make the desired outcome the most natural one.
So it's like we're being nudged in a particular direction without even realizing it.
Precisely.
That's pretty cool.
And the blog post has all these fascinating real-world examples of this.
Ooh, I'd love to hear some of those.
Let's do it.
Okay, hit me with your best shot.
All right, so sticking with the food theme for a second,
Sure.
have you ever noticed how some restaurants will use smaller plates?
Smaller plates.
Yeah.
I guess so. But why?
Well, it's actually a nudge.
Really?
It encourages portion control because even though we're eating less,
Oh, I see.
our brains still see a full plate, right?
Right.
Which triggers this feeling of satisfaction.
Makes you feel like you ate enough.
Yeah, even though you technically ate less than you might have on a larger plate.
Wow, that's so clever.
It's crazy how these small design choices can have such a big impact on our behavior.
It is.
Right.
And I bet most people don't even realize it's happening.
Exactly.
That's the sneaky part.
We're being nudged towards healthier eating habits without even knowing it.
I love it. What other examples do they have?
Well, they talked about showers in like gyms or hotels,
Okay.
and how some of them will have these displays that show you how much water you're using
Oh, yeah. I've seen those.
in real time.
Yeah, they make you feel a little guilty.
Yeah, a little bit. But that's kind of the point, right?
I guess so.
It's a nudge to encourage people to be more mindful of their water usage and take shorter showers.
So instead of just hoping people will conserve water, they're giving them real-time feedback on their actions.
Exactly. And that immediate feedback, it can be really powerful.
Makes you think twice before you let the water run for too long.
Right. It's not just some abstract idea of saving water. It's like, oh, wow, I'm using a lot of water right now.
Yeah, you're confronted with the consequences.
So you're more likely to adjust your behavior.
It's like they're appealing to your sense of responsibility.
Exactly. Much more effective than just putting up a sign that says, please conserve water.
For sure. Okay, what else? I'm hooked.
All right, this next one is a bit more whimsical.
Whimsical.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So the blog post mentions something called musical roads.
Musical roads. What in the world is that?
So you know how sometimes when you're driving, it can get kind of boring, especially on long stretches of highway?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Well, musical roads are these roads that have these strategically placed bumps on them.
Bumps.
Yeah, and when you drive over them at a certain speed,
Okay.
they create melodies
What?
Yeah, it's like a fun way to keep drivers alert and engaged and prevent them from falling asleep at the wheel.
No way. That's amazing. So instead of putting up more warning signs or speed bumps, they're turning the road itself into a musical instrument.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah,
way more enjoyable than just seeing another boring road sign.
absolutely. Who wouldn't want to drive on a road that plays music?
I know, right?
It's brilliant.
It's such a creative way to promote road safety.
It really shows how nudge theory is all about working with human nature
Yeah.
instead of trying to force it.
Instead of being like, don't fall asleep, it's like, hey, let's make this drive more fun and engaging so you stay awake naturally.
Exactly. It's like tricking your brain into being more alert.
I love it. And speaking of tricking your brain,
Oh,
this next example is even more creative.
more creative than musical roads.
I think so.
Okay, you have to tell me this one.
Are you ready for this?
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay, so the blog post talks about this thing called
Uh-huh.
the fly in the urinal.
Wait, what?
You heard me right. The fly in the urinal.
A fly in the urinal.
I don't get it.
Okay, so basically
They put this little decal of a fly,
a fly sticker.
yeah, inside the urinal,
Okay.
and it turns out that men are more likely to aim at it,
Really?
which reduces spillage and improves hygiene.
You're kidding me.
Nope, it's true.
So they're using a fake fly to improve bathroom etiquette.
Basically.
That's hilarious
Yep.
and kind of genius.
It really is. It's all about understanding human psychology
Mm-hmm.
and using it to design better environments.
Who would have thought that a simple fly sticker could have such a big impact?
It's amazing.
It really makes you wonder what other kinds of nudges are out there.
Right. Like, what else is secretly influencing our behavior without us even realizing it?
Okay, we need to dive deeper into this.
Let's do it.
I know, right? Like it's everywhere.
Yeah. And we just, like, walk around not even realizing it.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered food and bathrooms and even roads.
Mm-hmm.
What other areas did this blog post talk about using nudge theory?
Well, they went into a lot of depth about online shopping.
Online shopping?
Oh, yeah. And how it's like a breeding ground for nudges.
Interesting.
You've probably seen tons of them without even realizing it.
Oh, I'm sure I have. Like what? Give me an example.
Well, think about those little labels they put on product pages.
Labels.
Yeah, you know, like popular or low stock, bestseller, that sort of thing.
Oh, yeah, I see those all the time.
Those are all nudges, my friend.
No way.
Yeah. They're carefully designed to play on our psychology and encourage us to buy.
I never really thought of it that way.
It's true, though. So how do they work?
Yeah, break it down for me.
Let's take low stock, for example.
Okay.
You see that, and suddenly you feel this, like, sense of agency, right?
Like I got to get it before it's gone.
Exactly. It taps into our fear of missing out.
FOMO.
FOMO, exactly.
It's real.
It is, and it makes us act impulsively without really thinking it through.
I'm totally guilty of that, especially if it's something I've been thinking about buying anyway.
Oh, for sure. Like, it just pushes you over the edge.
Yeah. Well, it's low stock, so I better get it now.
Exactly. And then before you know it, boom, you've made a purchase.
That you might not have made otherwise.
Exactly. And what about those bestseller tags?
Yeah, those always make me think, well, it must be good if everyone else is buying it.
Right. It's like social proof.
Yeah, like a built-in recommendation system.
Exactly. We see something as popular and we automatically assume it must be high quality.
And trustworthy.
Right. We're like sheep following the flock.
Basically. But hey, sometimes the flock knows where the good stuff is.
That's true. But it's important to be aware of these tactics so we can make more conscious choices.
Right. We don't want to be mindless consumers just blindly following the crowd.
Exactly. It's about taking back control.
Okay, so we've got FOMO and social proof.
Mm-hmm.
Any other sneaky psychological tricks they're using on us?
Oh, there are so many. But the blog post highlighted this one example that I thought was really cool.
Okay.
It wasn't online, though.
Oh, where was it?
It was at this treetop adventure park.
A treetop adventure park.
Yeah. In Rennes, France.
Sounds fun.
It does. And they wanted to encourage visitors to give feedback on their experience. But they also wanted to keep the park clean, you know?
Yeah, I can see how that would be a challenge.
For sure. So they came up with this brilliant idea
What did they do?
of voting ashtray.
A voting ashtray. I
Yeah.
don't get it.
So instead of your typical ashtray, they installed these really cool-looking containers
Okay.
with different slots labeled with options like awesome, okay, and needs improvement.
Oh, I see. So instead of just tossing their cigarette butts wherever, smokers could vote on their experience.
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
And to cast their vote,
Yeah.
visitors use these wristbands they got when they entered the park.
So it encouraged engagement and cleanliness.
Two birds, one stone.
That's amazing. Such a simple idea, but so effective.
Right. It just shows how nudges can be used to achieve multiple goals at once.
I love it. It's like they gamified giving feedback.
Ugh. Yeah, exactly. And they made it fun and engaging.
Way more interesting than a boring old suggestion box.
For sure.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
This is just the tip of the iceberg, my friend.
I can't wait to learn more.
Me too. But before we dive any deeper, I think it's important to address the elephant in the room.
Oh, what's that?
If these nudges are so effective at influencing our behavior,
Yeah.
doesn't that raise some ethical concerns?
That's a good point. Like, couldn't this be seen as manipulation?
Exactly. And that's why transparency is so important.
Yeah, people should know they're being nudged. And why?
Right. No sneaky tactics or hidden agendas.
It's about empowering people to make informed choices, not tricking them into doing things they don't want to do.
Exactly. And the design of the nudge itself is important too.
How so?
Well, it shouldn't feel coercive or manipulative.
Right, it should be subtle.
Yeah, almost like a gentle suggestion.
Like a little whisper in your ear, guiding you in the right direction.
Exactly. It's about respecting people's freedom of choice.
While still guiding them towards choices that are beneficial for themselves or society as a whole.
Right. And it's important to constantly test and measure the effectiveness of these nudges.
Yeah, make sure they're actually working and not having any unintended negative consequences.
Exactly. So it's a complex issue
Definitely.
with a lot of different factors to consider.
But ultimately, I think it comes down to using nudge theory responsibly and ethically.
Couldn't agree more. All right, so we've seen all these cool examples of nudge theory in action.
Mm-hmm.
But what about us? Where do we encounter nudges in our everyday lives?
That's a good question. I'm sure they're all around us.
They are. Think about the default settings on your phone.
Okay.
The way products are arranged in stores, the messages you see on social media.
Wow, you're right. It's everywhere.
It is, and once you start looking for them, you can't unsee them.
It's like a whole new world has opened up.
Exactly. It's like we've been sleepwalking through a world of nudges, and now we're finally waking up.
And with that awareness comes power.
The power to make more conscious choices.
To resist the nudges we don't agree with.
And to create our own nudges that align with our values.
To become architects of our own choices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is like we were just going through life on autopilot, and now we're finally starting to see the Matrix.
I know, right? It's both fascinating and a little bit scary.
For sure. But I think ultimately it's empowering.
Definitely. Like, now that we know about these nudges, we can start to make more intentional choices.
Exactly. We don't have to be puppets.
Right? We can be puppeteers.
I like that. We can take control of our own decision-making.
And use this knowledge to design environments that nudge us towards the outcomes we want.
So it's not just about being aware of the nudges out there in the world.
It's also about creating our own nudges for good.
Exactly. Like, how could we use nudge theory in our own lives?
Well, think about it. Your home, your work, your community. Where could you apply some of these principles to encourage healthier habits or promote sustainability or just make things a little bit better?
Wow, the possibilities really are endless.
They are. It's all about getting creative and thinking outside the box.
So nudge theory isn't just some abstract concept. It's something we can all use to make a positive impact.
Exactly. It's a tool for change.
I love that. So to wrap things up, any final thoughts for our listeners?
I'd say embrace your newfound awareness. Pay attention to the nudges around you, question their purpose, and don't be afraid to experiment with creating your own nudges for good.
That's great advice. Thanks for joining me on this fascinating journey into the world of nudge theory.
It was my pleasure.
And to all our amazing listeners out there, keep those brains buzzing. We'll see you on the next deep dive.